Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Yesterday, I had coffee with my polyglot friend. A polyglot is someone who can speak many languages. As we were sitting in the coffee shop, my polyglot friend started to show me his skills. He first of all entertained the waiter, who was French, by talking to him and ordering his coffee in fluent French. When another waitress came to clear the table, he asked her, "Where are you from?" She said, "Poland," and immediately they were best friends, walked away together to the coffee bar while talking in Polish. At first, this was quite entertaining, but by the end of my session with my polyglot friend, it was very, very annoying. After all, he just kept talking in different languages and showing me his skill. He told me that he plans to write a book about how to learn so many languages. So I asked him directly, "How do you learn so many languages so quickly?" After all, he said he'd learned Polish in a matter of weeks, and I'm struggling with the basics of Persian in a matter of years. So I wanted to know how he does it, what his secret is. There must be some secret, right? Or is he perhaps just a special person? When he came back from talking to the Polish waitress and sat down, I confronted him immediately. I said, "Right, tell me your secret." And as he smiled with these pearl white teeth, and his gold watch shined and almost blinded me, he began to explain. According to him, the two fundamental factors in language learning are motivation and time. If you're doing something that you really love to do, then you're motivated. And if you're forcing yourself to do something that you really, really don't want to do, then something is very wrong. So I asked him, I said, "Well, are you saying that with your language learning, you enjoy learning all these languages?" And he said quite simply, "No, but he finds ways to motivate himself to make them exciting." He explained to me that it does take time to learn the language, but it has to be fun. This is what he told me. Firstly, never use a grammar book. Watch as many movies as you can. Be expectant of learning. He told me that the hardest thing he ever did was learning Arabic, because there just didn't seem any way into the language. He met many Arab people, and he watched as they exchanged pleasantries and ideas, but he couldn't understand anything. His thoughts of impatience and frustration were kind of holding him back. And he told me the way he overcomes these is to adopt a very positive, can-do attitude. And the most important thing he does with every language is total immersion. He makes new friends from that language, he lives in that language, and he makes sure that he knows lots of passive vocabulary. He also pointed out one very important thing. He said, "Remember, children don't read grammar books, and even kids who are only a year or 2 years old are already recognizing the patterns of a language and the structures of it long before they understand anything. They get immersed in it. And that's what we have to do. That's a very different thing from trying to fight with a grammar book to get the stuff inside your head. While he was explaining all of this, we had moved on to cake. We finished our coffee. We were having desserts. And of course, the waitress, a third one, came over, and this one appeared to be from Finland. I only know this because he asked her, and again both of them went skipping away to the cake counter, talking in Finnish. The waitress with dyed blue hair, and my friend with the gold watch, the white shirt, and that kind of beam when he smiled, which seemed to be like a kind of advertisement for toothpaste. When he came back, we spoke more about this idea of learning quickly. He explained to me that language learning takes two forms. One is the academic form, where it's bought and sold. Grammar books are what makes money, the same with language classes. But yet you can listen to a teacher talk for hours about a language and learn nothing. He said, what's the point of walking around the swimming pool reading a book about learning to swim? It's better just to jump into the water and do what other people are doing, isn't it? Of course, I completely agree with him. It's two very different ways of looking at a language. One with structure, with rules, boundaries, which is their classical way of educating people, and the other where you just jump into the swimming pool, you throw caution to the wind, and you just speak. Our conversation was a little bit unbalanced. I was completely out of my league. After all, I really struggle with Spanish and Persian. So to talk to this man who was speaking already 5 languages and looking at a couple of waiters and perhaps eyeing up number 6 or number 7, I could see that there wasn't really much I had in common with them. We did, however, strike a chord on shadowing. When I mentioned the word shadowing, his eyes lit up, and I thought, finally, something to talk about. Naturally, we were interrupted by yet another waitress who came to clear the table, and this one was an Arab. Again, same thing. He decided to have another cake, and him and the Arab happily trotted away to choose the cake while talking in Arabic. I was left sitting there for more than 5 minutes, and eventually when he did come back, we continued our conversation about shadowing. He said, shadowing's wonderful. Even if you understand nothing in a language, just immediately begin to speak it. And I told him, I said, well, that's always what I tell my students to do. Forget about the learning academic thing and really begin talking. My students are always a little bit neurotic for some reason. I don't know why. I'm perfectly fine. But anyway, they seem terrified of speaking. And we spoke about that. He said how it's perfectly normal and you have to be able to make mistakes in order to move forward. I asked him though, I said, what about those people who just can't learn? They get up in the morning, they stare at the books, they learn nothing, and they walk away feeling a sense of rage. How do you deal with those people? His answer was very simple. He said that you really have to get your motivation right first. If you're older, you're not the kind of person who likes books or grammar books, then immediately just start talking. Just begin imitating native speakers, and as you imitate them, you will slowly notice that you'll be remembering and the patterns will be staying in your mind. It's just like children. And we actually said that together. It's just like children. He started to say it, and I finished the sentence because it's both something that we absolutely agree on. Shadowing and speaking from the beginning is much, much better than staring at a grammar book, wishing that you could burn it. Finally, he said something very, very interesting. He said, learning a new language is a little bit like divorce. Once you've done it once, the second time is much, much easier. And then I remembered that he'd actually been married 3 or 4 times, one for each of the languages that he'd learnt. And as he stared at the waitress over in the corner, I suspected that she might have a chance of becoming number 5 on his list of wives. Then we joked about Henry VIII and his wives, and we left the coffee shop. So, just to sum up then, don't be afraid to speak. Speaking is better than studying. Don't be afraid to read. Reading something natural in a newspaper or a kid's comic book is far better than punishing yourself with a book that you're probably not meant to understand anyway. Tap into your natural habits and your natural strengths. Whatever you like to do in life, do it, but in a second language. Lastly, don't be afraid to be reminded how children learn. They identify structures long before they mutter their first word. And to use the advice of my polyglot friend, if opportunity comes your way, don't knock it. Just jump into the pool, be as stupid as you want, and don't be afraid. And there we are. That's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let's talk again soon. See you. Bye.